What is going on, everybody? Been a diehard Pistons fan since '03 and eager to see this team getting back to playing winning basketball. The Detroit Pistons hosted their media day today, and boy, do we have a lot to go over. I know the thumbnail says exciting but concerning. The good news is 99.9% of what we heard was exciting and great to hear, but there is one small sliver of kind of sort of bad news that we will get to in pretty early. But before we do that, I do want to shout out Amari Sankofa and Ku Kahil as the two guys who have been my go-to beat writers or reporters for today. Both of them were at Media Day and did an amazing job of covering this on their Twitter. So a lot of these quotes we're going to go over and things like that will be aggregated from their Twitter accounts. Make sure you guys check them out for even more in-depth coverage than what we're going to go over in this video. But I think in this video, we will hit on all of the main points and talk about the majority of things that I found to be interesting in Media Day. So to kick things off, right off the bat, we're going to talk about the concerning news that is only a little bit concerning, but not exactly great to hear. When Langdon first came out, one of the first things that he mentioned is that he said that Ausar is going through a process with the NBA and Players Association in order to be cleared, and he will not be ready for the start of training camp. Of course, this is going to be in relation to his blood clot issues that happened last year. Ausar personally said that he feels great. We'll get to that. But that was the one thing that I heard today that I don't think any of us were aware of, that Ausar would not be ready for training camp. That was a little bit discouraging. Right now, he's allowed to do conditioning, strength training, and non-contact drills. But I did just want to get that out of the way because that was the one thing that came out today where I was like, man, because I totally thought that was going to be behind us considering the way that it was being talked about over the summer. So after that, Langdon, as I mentioned, was the first one out. One of his first quotes he mentioned, he said that I don't think the goal for us is wins and losses. We want to win as many games as possible, but it's putting a group on the floor that is the Detroit Pistons identity. So that was kind of exactly what he said during the summer league. They've been reiterating that quite a bit since Langdon has taken over, that they do want to build an identity. But to come out and say that it's not about wins and losses might not be music to some ears for some fans who are pretty eager after last season. He also mentioned that Ivy was the person who was kind of the most overworked this summer, or they had to pull him back. Langdon said that Ivy was the one guy on the roster who they had to pull back from overworking because he was just so locked in over the summer trying to do everything. So that's encouraging to hear for all my Ivy believers like myself out there. So after Langdon came on, then Bickerstaff came on directly after. He had a quote about the veterans. He said that the biggest thing about the veterans was the fact that they all wanted to be here. He said they wanted to be here. That's important to mention. They wanted to be here and be a part of this process. They understand exactly what they're getting into, and because of that, they just want to give back. Pretty awesome to hear. I mean, at the end of the day, a lot of people love to make jokes about the Pistons and players not wanting to come here, this and that. But when you kind of go down the list of the vets that we added this summer, Tobias Harris spent time in Detroit previously, met his wife here, now has family here. It makes sense for him to want to come back. Malik Beasley has family from Detroit. Makes sense. Tim Hardaway Jr. went to school here in Ann Arbor. So all of these vets that we brought in, it makes sense why they would want to be here, and they all are obviously up for the leadership roles that they're taking on. So after Bickerstaff had came on and got off, Cade was the next man up. One of the quotes that Cade said was that he was at the Tigers game on Friday when the Tigers clinched. He said, I'm in the building, seeing how the stadium is reacting to that, getting chills. That's what we want to do for the Pistons fans, for the city as far as basketball. We want to bring that same excitement and same joy. So pretty awesome that he was able to go to that game where the Tigers clinched. I think that that should be inspiring to a lot of the players on the team, along with the Lions. On a side note, go Tags. So that was pretty cool to hear, and awesome that he was able to go to the game. Cade also mentioned that he put in a lot of work this summer, more than he's put in any summer since high school, mostly because his injury issue with his shin and stress fracture is behind him now. And he also mentioned and acknowledged that he had been working on his floater quite a bit this summer and trying to improve his finishing at the rim. He said that his floater is going to help a lot so he doesn't have to dive into as many big bodies and try and create contact. So really hoping that pans out, because if you guys are tapped in with my channel, we have talked about Cade's inefficient rim finishing recently as one of the number one things on his list of areas to improve. So after Cade came on and got off, Fontecchio was up next. He mentioned that he had surgery in May. We already knew that. The good news, he said that he has been back playing full 5-on-5 basketball since August, and he's going to be ready to go. Sounds like he's in tip-top shape as well post-surgery, so great to hear. After Fontecchio came on, then Sasser came on. One of the Sasser quotes was, "We had good vets last year, but I feel a different vibe from these vets. They seem more into it, not even just on the court. They're helping us with life." You guys will hear this is definitely a trend from the players. All of the players have already seemed to hit it off with all of the new vets, which is just amazing to see. So really awesome stuff to hear that Sasser's pointing that out that directly. So after Sasser came on and got off, then Duren came to the podium. Duren had a quote on shedding the losing reputation. He said, "Nobody wants to lose. Since I've been in the league, we've had our ups and downs. This is probably our best put together team as far as vets and guys working, guys wanting to be here. I'm excited to see what we can do and achieve." So just the exact same thing as Sasser said, really. More credit to these vets that are coming in. They're wanting to be here and they're wanting to help out as much as they can. So I think that's just really, really great. And then he also mentioned that he needs to lock in more defensively. I think that we all agree with that. He said that the lock in on the defensive end is just going to be a key. So seems to be that he's kind of thinking of it as more of a mental thing and not a physical capability thing. One other cool thing is he also shouted out Kuka Heel, said he rocks with Locked On Pistons. So me and Duren, we both locked in with Locked On. Cool to hear. Awesome for Koo. Another Pistons YouTuber, I'm sure 95% of you guys know and are sub to him. So after Duren came on and got off, then Ausar came to the podium. He also talked about his rehab with the blood clot and the issues he's going through with the Players Association right now to get cleared. He said, "Ever since what happened, I've been working out and slowly progressing the workouts to being harder and harder. Right now, I feel great. I feel perfectly fine," is what he was quoted saying. So really awesome that he's healthy. Just really hope that everything can get cleared sooner than later with Ausar, just so that he doesn't miss any important time in training camp. So Ausar also mentioned that he had been working with Fred Vincent a little bit. I think we're all excited to hear that. Of course, Fred Vincent, shooting coach, new to the team. Ausar Thompson really needs some help with his shot. So good to hear. After Ausar, Ron Holland came to the podium. He had a quote on getting accustomed to Detroit. He said, "It's amazing. Being in the downtown area, I hear all types of noise when games are going on. The amount of love this city shows to its sport is ridiculous. It's unbelievable." Really cool to hear that the city has had a good impact on Ron Holland. Really happy about that. And then he also said that he believes he can be the best shooter in the league. So I'm super, super okay with him saying that. I don't know if I can agree at this point in time. I hope that he makes me into a believer into that quote sooner than later. Not that I think he has a broken jump shot. We talked about it on this channel a lot, that there's a lot of potential there, but of course he does need to show it on the floor before we can start to agree with that one. After Ron came on, then it was Ivy's turn. Ivy also talked a bit about the Tigers. He was quoted saying the Tigers made the playoffs, the Lions made some noise last year and are in there this year as well. We want to be that team. This city is changing and we want to make a push this season and play the best ball we can every time we step on the floor. Ivy himself also mentioned working on his three-point shot this summer. Like Langdon mentioned, he was working hard all through the summer and they had to pull him back some days because he was all in on this. Another side note, Ivy is growing back his hair. So anyone who is missing Ivy's longer hair, it looks like it's going to be coming back. After Ivy came and left the podium, then it was Tim Hardaway Jr.'s turn to come on up. Hardaway was quoted saying, "In our situation, we want to give everybody our best game. We can only go up from the experience they had last year. Me bringing that experience and mindset and preparation over here, I think that helps. And I think that I agree with you, Tim." He also said that Cade can be a version of Luka, but there is only one Luka Doncic. Some people were kind of like up in arms with that, but no, that's just reality. Luka Doncic is a one-of-one player, and Cade will never be exactly Luka. That's okay. That's totally fine. There will never be a one-to-one comparison to anyone who's at that caliber. There's never going to be another Steph Curry, another LeBron James, another Giannis. There will be variations, but even Kobe wasn't exactly Jordan. There was differences there, okay? So I have no problem with that quote whatsoever. So after Hardaway came on, then it was Stewart's turn. Stewart had a quote talking about Trajan. He said, "I love his vision. I love the vision that he has for the Pistons. Even with all the changes, bring in new teammates and even coaching staff. It's all been great, all great stuff." So Yeah, everybody seems to be happy with the new teammates coming onto the roster, the veterans. Stewart also talked about being the longest tenured Piston, which is crazy to say because he's only been here 4 years. And also, on a side note, JB did mention that he sees Stewart as more of a 5. We've talked about that all summer on this channel, kind of predicted it. So happy to see that he agrees there. So after Stewart came on, Tobias came up. One quote from Tobias said, "I wanted to be part of something that I thought was growing in the right direction. You can look at it on paper, but sitting down with Trajan and Cade, his mental at the time and where he wants to be as a player made me realize that this is moving in the right direction." Biggest takeaway from Tobias, all the young guys already seem to be hitting it off with him. He really wanted to be back in Detroit, so super excited to see him back in a Pistons uni. After Tobias came up and went, then it was Paul Reed's turn. He had a quote on what he can bring to Detroit. He said, "A ton of energy, a ton of leadership, knowing that I'm one of the older guys on the team. I know I have to lead by example and show those guys the right way to do things. For me, that's very important." Another quote from another vet talking about the leadership, veteran presence, all of that type of stuff seems to be quite the theme. All the veterans are acknowledging their ability to be in that role, and all the young guys seem to be appreciative of it. And then also, Beasley came on after Paul Reed. He said the same exact thing about being a vet. He made a joke about Dennis Jenkins calling him an unk the other day. He said he almost went off on him. So sounds like they're already having jokes and all that type of stuff, which is awesome. Like I mentioned in my video yesterday, really want to see these guys have a high kind of fun rate and vibe check for today. And I'd say that they definitely tick those boxes. Beasley also mentioned that they can learn from me. I've been a starter to not playing championship teams, non-championship teams, and just kind of gave his perspective on his time in the league. After Beasley came up, it was time for Bobby Klitman. Bobby Klitman was asked about his passing over the summer league that we were all enamored by. He said that a lot of that came from back in the day because he was playing 2 grades up when he first started playing basketball, was forced to play point guard, and that is why he is the passer he is. So that's pretty much all I was able to aggregate. That's a lot of quotes, throwing you all at once, I know. But really the biggest takeaway, in my opinion, from what I saw watching all of these interviews and reading all these quotes, it seems like all of the vets who came here are here for the right reasons. Not to throw shade on any of the vets that we had in the past, but it felt like they were here knowing it was a pit stop in order to move on to bigger and better things. A lot of these vets seem to be more bought in and already building stronger relationships with the younger players that are on this roster. And the young players on this roster are already starting to show that they really do appreciate that veteran presence, leadership, and investment. As far as Langdon and JB goes, I will say I do really have a lot of confidence in both of those guys. I feel like that I have a lot more trust in both of them when they say what their visions are for this team and their expectations. JB Bickerstaff kept talking about how it's not going to be so easy for young guys to get away through playing through mistakes. Just a lot of really good stuff to hear, and it seemed very honest and trustworthy. So overall, great media day. If you guys are looking for more content on Media Day, definitely check out Amari Sankofa's Twitter, Kuka Heel. Honestly, you can just go to the Detroit Pistons main page. You'll find some stuff on there. If you just Google it, you'll find more stuff. Of course, due to copyright reasons, I can't just show you all the interviews and all of that type of stuff on this channel. So I did the best I could in aggregating some quotes and some info. Tried to hit on every player that came to the podium and bring you guys some info. So I'll catch up with y'all soon.